cultural appropriation is not something that is unique to the United States of America. Many other countries and many other celebrities from other countries have taken part in this, most notably, for example, the current Prime Minister of Canada. But for this speech, I will be focusing on American celebrities that have or are currently and most likely will continue to take part in cultural appropriation of African Americans and Japanese people. Now, for some reason, in the past decade or so, there's been a shift in the United States regarding hip-hop. What wasn't very common for it to be used 10 years ago, it's now appearing more in films and soundtracks for films and TV shows. Or musicians that maybe don't make hip-hop or trap music are incorporating more and more elements of that genre into their music. And while there's nothing wrong with being influenced, stealing is where we have a problem. Now, first I will define what cultural appropriation is and who typically does it. Cultural appropriation is defined as the unacknowledged and inappropriate adoption of customs, practices, and ideas of a people or society by the more dominant members of that society. And because of this, historically, it's the people that take part in culturally appropriating other people are the members of a dominant racial group or the dominant economic group in that country. So usually it's celebrities that take part in it. Now I will now give examples of American celebrities using cultural appropriation. To start things off, Ashley Turner, writing for Fame Stella on June 26th of 2020, says that Ariana Grande has unnaturally dark skin from tanning and makeup. She uses African American AAVE, my apologies, and many of her hit songs have been written by a black artist named Victoria Monet. Next is writing for USA Today on April 6th of this year, Hannah Yasharoff writes that Addison Rae's performance on Jimmy Fallon drew backlash because the show didn't invite the BIPOC creators of the TikTok dances that she performed. Addison Rae, being a white woman, has profited from the dances that were created originally by BIPOC content creators. BIPOC content creators historically do not obtain the mainstream recognition and success that their white counterparts do, unfairly. Next, writing for Rolling Stone, Keith Harris of this year on March 19th writes that Justin Bieber's newest album, Justice, begins with MLK's quote of injustice everywhere being a threat to justice everywhere. When Bieber includes Reverend King again halfway through the album and his speech about preaching to find a cause worth dying for, Bieber equates that with his love for his wife. And Harris writes that at best, these clips have the hollow, non-committal feel of a company tweet during Black History Month, and at worst, they co-opt and trivialize the message of Martin Luther King. And for my final example, Vanessa Friedman, writing for the New York Times, writes that people were incensed when they learned that Kim Kardashian applied for trademarks for her kimono brand of undergarments. Even she tried to trademark the name and brand of kimono, even though kimonos are a traditional piece of clothing in Japan that date back to roughly the 300 AD. All right. Now that I have listed examples of high-profile instances of cultural appropriation in America, I'm going to tell you why you should strive to make a positive change regarding the removal of cultural appropriation as a practice from our society. Number one, cultural appropriation is extremely harmful. It is harmful to the groups that are stolen from because they're not given any credit. They're not paid, for the most part, for the things that are taken from them, and they just don't get any recognition or credit at all. And the people that take from them are doing this and usually achieve pretty significant monetary gain. Now, and so in closing, cultural appropriation is something that deeply upsets me, and I stand firm in my objections to it being such a prevalent factor in our society. And it is important that I hold fellow white people accountable, and I would ask that you do the same. We do not have to be affected by cultural appropriation ourselves to care about other people affecting it. Just because we aren't affected by it does not mean we should stand by and let other people be affected by it negatively. So I hope you take away from my speech a feeling of motivation to be a positive ally and effective ally for those who are too often taken advantage of.